if this even helps one person, I think I will be plenty satisfied with that. Tackle the big problems one step at a time, or something like that. Yeah, people clear their decks all kinds of ways. Sound's kind of my thing, so I'll snap them, people knock them. People will sage them or what have you, or cleanse them with smoke or fire. It's whatever resonates with you, but I figure on the go, a simple slapping of them back into tune kind of does it for me. And then folding just kind of helps me realign. I'm folding them within each other, sorry. It's hard to talk while I'm like visualizing. Thank you. All right, 6 of Wands fell out. Triple sixes. All right, that's dope. So bottom of the deck is 6 of Cups. Let's see, where's my angle? There we go. Ding, ding. Which is a beautiful card. It's a very powerful card. Very stable, very clearing. Kind of reminds me of exactly why I ended up choosing this crystal quartz to keep with me today. Also, we've got Cups, Pentacles, and Wands. All very interesting. 2 Pentacles. Cups. This is definitely the momentum. The bottom of the deck is kind of the momentum of what's going on. I heard something recently too that was like, this ain't no 6 of Pentacles moment. Like, balance is not here, is not grounding. But I don't think that's true for everybody. I feel like a lot of people are maybe struggling, but starting from a 6 of Wands, that kind of flying out, and achieving balance, I feel like this momentum knows that it's capable. It's almost like, I don't know, beautifying it, offering it even more. And is very much, I think, seeing yourself in this perspective that seems maybe unattainable or impossible right now. I don't know if you can see that. Let's focus. There we go. Let's see. Funny. Like worldly balance, and then underneath it is the Hermit. Ooh, okay. So the bottom of that pole was Queen of Swords, which comes up for me often. That's the air element that is not within the first 3. Like it's almost like you have all the sides of a triangle but it's just not getting from point A to point B. But you have all of the tools. Like, you're almost like, I have all of these gifts. What the heck do I do with them? Like, how do I bring balance to this? But the Queen of Swords, especially I think with the Six of Cups, is like, you have all of these beautiful gifts that you don't necessarily have to wield like a weapon. Yeah, and this blue flower and like all of the smoke around her. I just can't help but think the waters within this earth flowing. And I was listening to something recently that was like, how often in maps and in history, like, water has taken over lands, and like yada yada yada, lost city of Atlantis. But like, even with like Louisiana and stuff, and we see that with Florida, is that so and so down the line, these plots of land may not exist and may be overtaken. But it's finding that flow, like tapping into your God flow, because it's going to happen one way or another. And it's almost like waiting for signs of it, like this King of Pentacles almost like has all of his seed to offer, but like doesn't have a counterpart. And in the second half of this is the Empress underneath him. So it's almost like your idea is the counterpart for that. Your idea is, which this is super cool. So he has like this solid crown, and she has a crown of like many. So it's very much like macrocosm and microcosm, like the collective to the whole thing. And I think that that's where you find that Six of Pentacles balance. But so, okay, in between where the King of Pentacles and the Empress connect is the Three of Swords underneath the Six of Wands, which is interesting. I feel like maybe in the past it's been like more like you've had more heat than you knew how to deal with, or had like been given more than you thought you could handle, but have handled it gracefully. And I think the Three of Swords, it doesn't necessarily elicit all of the pain that I think people often speak about. For me, it's more so, and see, the blue flower she has too. Again, kind of like tapping into those inner waters that see in the back of your heart. And that is often where that Three of Swords finds its strength. It's not just in the pain. There's a dual side of it. Like, just like shit's not all love and light, like that can't exist without shadows. The Three of Swords finds a beautiful strength and a beautiful sort of calling card because of all that it's been through. And it's almost like, yeah, we bleed, but like we bleed for good reasons, like, or we have to find places in life where we're bleeding for our power, and like that's a source of strength, and a source of beauty rather than just a source of pain. Blood is also like the strongest way of conjuring, and it's, you know, intense menstruation, things like that is super intense, can be super painful, but at the same time it's a sign of the seeds of life. Like, the beauty of hurt is that where we have the capacity to feel so much and so intensely and so much more, and that in and of itself is a gold star that can be planted and wield great life, or can flow and really, really permeate everything. You know, one drop of blood can make the whole sea red. And sometimes it's maybe that one sacrifice, or really, really tuning into the strength of what that sacrifice may have been, or that pain may have been, so that that one drop can become the whole macrocosm of things. And vice versa. All of your gifts and all of your wisdom and intuition and power condensed into that one drop of blood, one drop of life force in you. and what really motivates you to build with those Six of Wands. And I think that's where the Hermit comes in again, which has come up constantly, like through all of quarantine. And it's funny because, like, literally, yeah, but the paradox of this, like, balanced earthly card and kind of encompassing everything to this, solitary wisdom seeker. And he's not even a wisdom seeker. It's like he's gone through the wisdom seeking, which is why he can separate himself and still be a light. And still be a light on, like, the stars that she's cultivating, and that exist in her crown. The stars exist in your crown. It's just a matter of creating that stable structure and stacking them and putting them in line so that Six of Cups that is seen as that microcosm and, like, tiny, tiny atoms of the whole gold. Does that make sense? You can't respond, but thank you. Yeah, I love the Three of Swords. I feel like for a lot of us that have felt very beaten and battered or come from, like, abusive situations, the Three of Swords has been very much about heartbreak. But the beautiful thing about the depths of your heart, and again, kind of where we get the depths of that ocean stuff, and I mean, even in just the way that it's kind of presented with, like, within a cove, within a cave, like that cavity of your chest is a cave of many seas and many waters, and the front side and which is exactly why I also had these. The chakra colors for your heart aren't necessarily just, like, one or the other. I know rose quartz is always associated with heart energy. I think this is like green sodalite or something. I'll have to double check that. But is like the depths of your heart. Ooh, Jesus. I feel like rose quartz is the expansive and the green is still expansive, but it's almost like that internal expansion, and uniting those two, creating ultimate life and ultimate balance. And I think you have that, but maybe you're afraid of expanding it to the opposite side, or you have all of the outside love, but you don't know how to love yourself. There's lacking a unity in the two, but that you know the steps to take. You can see all of your ducks in a row, like you see it building, but it's not going to just build itself. This Six of Cups doesn't exist on its own just because, sometimes we're fucking touched by an angel, but it's all of the work that this Queen of Swords has put in the past. All of those resources that have helped us survive in, like, crazy ass skies so that we can find structure and peace within. And now it's just a matter of reflecting that. Like, I feel like we're almost like sitting at God, like, I have all of these things and all of this knowledge and all of this love, like, show me what to do with it. Like, how do I make something of this? But it's not somebody else. Like, it's not the King of Pentacles, like, she's, like, the Empress is his counterpart. It's very much something that exists within you, which is where this Three of Swords comes in. It's not physical unity of these ideas necessarily, and it manifests in many ways. It's not like a relationship or whatever. That's not what we're building. Sure, maybe that's the thing, but this runs way deeper than that. And there's gonna be a lot of, like, disruptions in what our habits are because of that growth. It's gonna break off some of those old ways of knowing and loving, or we're gonna get left behind. Yeah, like, you can't just anticipate that the top cup will just be given to you in this pyramid. Like, it's work and it's building that we've been doing, that's been a thing. I I think this is more so doubting the effectiveness, intensity, purpose of whatever it is that you're really going for, that your heart really, really wants or wants to strive for, or what have you. Yeah, that's interesting. Let's see. What else can you tell me? Yeah, oh man, this King of Pentacles is kind of just like staring at me. It's almost sad. Like, do we really think that we need somebody else to be able to build this? Like, we've got all the fire in the Six of Wands. We've got all the experience with the Three of Swords. Yeah, up. Okay. Interesting. Bottom of that is Nine of Swords. So the things I think feel like hurdles, feel like insecurities, what ifs. But the funny thing about all of the what ifs right now is that like literally everything's up in the air. So it's unnecessary. It's almost just like shadows of thought. I don't know if you can see it that well. Like shadows of thought that are just like, and I've dealt with this a bit over these quarantine periods and with, I don't know, all the moon action was like we all have these kind of negative thoughts that come at us. But there was a point in time where they were very different. Like I know my depression and I know my bipolar and like the typical things that I say to myself that my shadow self kind of taunts me with before I really dealt with that. And there was a point where it was just like different and sort of intrusive and sort of third party. So I feel like this is maybe part that, but also like you're letting outside situations dictate your level of belief and faith in yourself. Or outside standards, or again, like all these like what ifs. What if I failed? What does failure even mean at this point? Because most of the world is like locked down and unemployed. So what does failure mean in general? Like, is it just success to try, honestly? To sort of hold your hand out like this King of Pentacles, asking this Empress to like recognize your atoms. And I said this wasn't a relationship thing. Ta-da! Two of Pentacles on this motherfucker too. But it is like a tangible manifestation because of those pentacles, I think. It's almost like your earthly manifestation granted by divine insight. Because it's these two very earthly cards and it comes into this major arcana. Knight of Pentacles and the Ten of Wands. Yeah, this is... grounding force is in this like beautiful light, and we kind of have this reoccurring theme of like growing green. So he's kind of off to the side, but like very much growing. I think that's better light. And the brightest point of this are two things: the background of this Two of Pentacles, almost like I just got a vulva like glass sculpture, and like one of the centerpieces is kind of like that. And so it's just kind of making me also think of that depth and that kind of power of creation. And then the Venus symbol on the Empress is a bright green spot. So yeah, like earthly desires or earthly fires granted through divine intervention, but that doesn't take away from, or that's only in support of the fact that this queen has done her duty, can lay her sword down, has like made peace with this Three of Swords and recognized that it's actually great power, and started to stack all of those values and all of that wealth, and all of that power and all of that intuition into something stable. I don't want to say salvageable, stable, and you know, like, yeah, like building a ladder, like building a motherfucking ladder. It's almost like even his shield, and even his horse is like indebted to him. So the Knight of Pentacles isn't about fighting or aggressiveness like the Knight of Swords may elicit sometimes. It's very much more a place of tenderness, almost like coming back from your war, and sort of the shield to this Queen of Swords, I think. You know, finally seeing what all of that fighting was for. I think this is very much a big part of that moment. And why probably I've had such a weird time with Chiron, because it's that wounded warrior craziness. You know, the key to our happiness is also turning our wounds and our insecurities into life and into light. And I love this Two of Pentacles, because I always say that, well, a best friend of mine taught me that love is a growing thing. And so I've always kind of believed that love emanates when you find that clear point and love yourself, and then that multiplies. And then when that connection goes, it's like what is that fucking thing? Not so fragile frequency, but the golden ratio, golden triangle stuff. And then that multiplies again to create more and more love. And then so you kind of just like go around building on love, but it all starts from one singular point. It's just a matter of balancing where that comes from to you. Does it come from, you know, the first layers of your heart? What the first layers of your heart, or the very back sea of it? The very deep, dark depths of it. I think you'll find that there's much more strength there, much more depth to what you can create once you find that. And that Ten of Wands is exactly that. Completion of cycles and all that jazz, but like, if you look at the colors of him, I think you can kind of see. Oh God, where's my flashlight? Because it's nighttime here. Oh, is that terrible? There we go. Kind of. But so he's kind of like emanating that green out into more oranges and roses and pinks and reds. But it starts from that very deep green, like deep heart place. And it almost pours out of him like blood, like he's being impaled, but he's not. It's like emanating light. He's like suspending this wand. But yeah, very much like yes, very much like what's going on here with this sword. Only it's not penetrating. It's sort of like reverse magic. And creation of energy. So like with this crazy sword, and that deep heart energy, sort of shocks himself back to life. Shake Me Awake. That's a great song. If there's any Deer Hunter fans out there. God, I love the colors of these. Okay, I hope that makes some sense. We are going to pull some numbers to see what happens on the literal side of this, because it was also very grounded, or a lot of like, I don't know, earth picturing, emanation, greens, the steps that add up to this. And it's steps. Like, all of these things are very meticulously built structures, very balanced structures. So whatever it is that needs to happen for you to recognize that power and wield it so that you can create, it's small steps, not just like gushing out wound. It's sort of like, I don't know, it's the funny thing about a step at a time. Like, too far and you'll lose balance, or too big of a step and you'll lose balance. And if you stay put for too long, you'll lose balance or overexert yourself or forget that you were working on something at all. All right. Bottom of this is the 7 of clubs. Oh, here, that way. Which, God, is making me think like distracted. Like, you have, when you build a tower, like those towers of cards or cups, like, if you get distracted on the very last cup, or like that center placed cup, and the whole thing goes to shit. So you've got a 9 of hearts to start, and an 8 of hearts to start. Yeah, I feel like you're like, if I learn one more thing, then I'll have all that I need to get where I need to. So your nose is in the books. But it's funny, his eyes are also almost closed. So it's like, are you learning how to make yourself happier? And Jack of clubs, how to find joy, how to find carefreelessness. And maybe that's what we're trying to manifest, is like being able to just make more space for our heart. King of Spades is, yeah, putting in the work. The meticulous, burdensome, like he's shoveling snow, like compacted freaking snow. It's heavy, it sucks, it sticks to you. And that Spades is all that like swords, mental strife, like air fucking energy. And the clubs is kind of like that heat, which is where you often get that kind of joy from. But are you trying to clear that fire out like it's a problem or like it's trouble, when you could just acknowledge it for its beauty and accept where it's coming from, because it comes from a place of love and joy. That's the funny, I love when people talk about things like lust. And so Jacks are often kind of these like suitor cards, and we have 2 in a row. But again, I don't think it's a suitor. I think it's like self-love, making space for joy in your life, for the things that really made you happy. And so this Jack of Hearts is very much like it elicits this image of like this young, sweep you off your feet kind of guy, or kind of suitor kind of person. And I think it's making space for you to sweep yourself off your feet, because the cards around it are kind of like this is very romantical, is that a word? Like how you find those real sultry playlists or what have you. So you're sort of singing to this tune in your head, or you should be singing to this tune in your head, but then you have this 3 of diamonds, and it's almost like I get the feeling that this is more of a dreamed of suitor, and you know, like movies and all of that, rom-coms they come out with, like, what is it, something new on Netflix, Kissing Booth or whatever, and it's like, oh man, that's not what I'm trying to focus on. And like, it's such a weird false, or it's usually such a weird false representation of love, and so we end up aspiring for these things and sort of programmed for wanting more, when we really should just be like writing that song for ourselves, and falling in love with plugging into ourselves, really, which is again kind of, I think, where that 10 of Wands comes in with that supercharge, is recognizing the incredible capacity we have for love within ourselves, from the deepest, darkest places of our heart. Yeah, this was a funny combination. And I was just thinking that too, like, the excitements of you know, young lusts, when we have no clue when that's going to happen again, because, or like when we can even, like, I don't know, be with people again because of all this lockdown stuff. My God, but I totally, so thought train's coming back around. That fire energy that comes from the 6 of Wands and then is again prevalent with this clubs, rather than clearing away, it's the same way like religious extremists will talk about lust and stuff like that. Like, it is part, like, it's just a facet of the same fire, like that creative energy, the same fire that's lust and love and like a creative idea, starting a career, like all of that energy is in the same bucket or the same like room. It's just a matter of what door we let it out of. And so what these cards are kind of giving me is like, rather than acknowledge the fire and make what you can of it, you're sort of looking at just maybe like outside sources rather than going with what you feel, and trying to clear the room of the smoke from this fire, rather than making like communion with it and like dancing around it and recognizing like the strength behind it is just a matter of what you do with it, or like where it can really go. And it can be very exciting. It can feel like new love inside of you without anybody else at all. That's the exciting part about creation, or anger even. You know, you don't have to be destructive and break shit. Like depression, anger, all of that comes from the same place that love does. It's just a matter of how you transmute it, or how, like, you know, same room, which doorway you let it out. And this is where meditation comes in very much handy. And it's very hard to do when you're constantly looking at outside sources or outside how-tos and outside this and that. You know, everybody's got different ways of doing things. I'm not saying don't learn, but there is a point where you're just learning. And again, like I said, with the big steps or no steps, it almost exhausts your brain. There's or you're not really like receiving any of it, you know? Like, are you just stoking the fire and not doing anything with it. Thinking that Spirit's just going to intervene, but Spirit's waiting for you to stop waiting for Spirit, for you to just make the moves that you already know you should be making. Does that make sense? I had a burp. Hold on. And maybe that's where this comes in too, is like retail therapy, but also like the guilt that comes with it. Like that's what I'm getting, is like the guilt that comes with like the fact that you have a fire. Like it's some kind of bad thing and you have to clear it, or you have to douse it, or you have to like dump ice on it or dump snow on it. Like that's, get rid of the guilt, get rid of the shame, but make your decisions responsibly and from a place of heart and a place of excitement and a place of joy and a place of where that I love like the deepest parts of your heart. I can't say that enough. From that 3 of Swords and fucking 10 of Swords place. From the depths of your emotional waters, which is that 6 of Cups and that 6 of Pentacles even, I think. I feel like it's more about the negative space that you're leaving for yourself. So we have 9 of Diamonds, 2 of Clubs, 8 of Hearts. And what did I say with the 9 of Hearts and the 8 of Hearts? So this is the first card, and this is dink, and this is the last card. I feel like it's that step down, almost like you were shooting for a 10 and you came up just short because you're not reading in between the lines and you're not trusting your intuition. I think this card's also, it's often given me the feeling or like the idea of turns of events and what have you. But I feel like this is more, God, I think it's like an Egyptian myth or something, or like Egyptian mythology or something too, with like some leading dogs or something. I don't know. Don't fact check me on that, or don't quote me on that. But it's like leading with your senses for me on this one. Leading with your senses rather than that outside information. Leading with your heart space. Leading with like the deepest, darkest parts of your heart space. Like if you close your eyes, pay attention to what arises. Pay attention to where you want to go. Often the answer is right inside of you or right in front of you. You just have to close your eyes to see it. To feel it. And his like eyes are rolling in the back of his head. This very like hardcore Buto face. And I think that's absolutely a practice. That's like, yo, tune into what your body is telling you, what your senses are telling you, rather than thinking that you have to go one direction or another. And the dogs are doing the same. They could totally split and like pull the dude down the middle. But their senses are driving them too. Their senses are leading his senses, and I think this is also a sign of you like, no, you know what direction you're getting pulled in, or what direction you are leaning into. But the funny thing about this media is it absolutely fuels you with doubt and insecurity, and oftentimes that's why we don't feel like we have the love in our lives that excites us, or the love in our lives for ourselves. Like we're missing one, like we're just the King of Pentacles, like please, when we are also the microcosmic and macrocosmic like Empress and breakdown of atoms existing in all points. of potential, particle theory or some shit. Yeah, oof. The media makes you feel insecure, and we've known that, Photoshop and all that shit. But so then there's 9 of Diamonds reversed. Wow. And reversed, it's like, okay, but what am I lacking? And that's this 9 of Hearts too, is sort of like looking for something else to point out where your heart is to you, and physically being like, okay, but what am I lacking? Like, what's in my way? Like, what did I lose? What might I lose? What could I lose? That kind of vibe. Interesting. So there's like holes where his heart is, and playing a game called Brain Blast. And I feel like that's also the disconnection that happens when we're in sort of a survival mode and we can't lead with our hearts. So we think we lead with our heads. When in reality, when you're leading only logically or only with your brain, you're really cutting off a part of yourself and the way information really processes through your body. Because the way that it happens is like there's your gut and your heart and your brain. And we used to think that information, okay, here, let's clean up that view. Information only comes from the brain and then like sends it down to the rest of these. Tells your heart to do this, tells your stomach to digest. But modern science is finding out that that is not true, and that information enters through the body through root chakra, like digestive tract, all that jazz. So like through your gut system, and then that information, that like gut feeling, gets sent to your heart, and then that sends information to the brain that then sends it back down to the body. Yeah, so when you're stuck in media and insecurity and all that jazz, and like what you're lacking, and like looking for answers outside of yourself, and thinking that you just have to clear what you are, who you are, what the air about you is. Like, don't get me wrong, we all got some clearing to do, but like the essence of who we are, that essence of this 10 of Wands, that green fucking spillage, that is being in tune with all sources of information, not just thinking logically. Like you can't just be right brain or just left brain. You have to figure out how to work intermittently with the two. You have to sort of create that balance. And interesting. And then we have the 2 of clubs. 2 of clubs. Riding a bike, looking not directly in front of him, but off to the side. Not using both sides of his brain, not using both eyes, not keeping a middle look down the path, is almost like anticipating a turn. But the funny thing is, if he's anticipating a turn on this way, he's not going to see something coming from him this way. That's how accidents happen. Anticipation does us no favors. It's a huge source of anxiety. And media definitely has us like constantly on like 10, like what's coming next, with politics, yes, but just like advertising and marketing and yada yada yada. It's almost like you're constantly looking out for an opportunity or an offer or what have you, and it's really just a source of frustration because your heart is plenty full without it. Your heart is full and whole alone. if anything, it's lacking unity within itself, not with another person and not with another sale or idea or book or TV show or webinar or program or any of that. Yeah, even look at this cord. She is source. She's listening to the ether, to the air that the swords have cut with that Queen of Swords and that Three of Swords. Just don't get caught in all of this craziness. Because even look at the air cutting that. It's just vicious cycles. Vicious cycles upon cycles upon cycles. This also has a lot to do with just the moon being an asshole lately. I mean, excuse me, moon's not an asshole, just like has some heavy waves lately. Especially, what has it been in, like Pisces or some water sign? Yeah, emotions run deep. Run very deep. And when they are not in unison or aligned or like communicating well, it's rapid. It's like the tornadoes we've been seeing. Mother Nature manifests very much this in like weather lately, it seems, has been the thing. Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to throw some runes because that's been fun lately and see what happens. I'm just realizing this is a terrible angle. Oh. Interesting. Oh, these I know less intuitively. Let's see what. But I will say, I had to turn this whole right side. And it's small steps, whereas this is a long step. This is where we've been getting caught up. It's not recognizing the small steps, be it staying still or jumping too far. The negative space, that water energy, or like transmuting of the air. But the negative space in the water of that Six of Pentacles. And the finding the deep sea of your heart, that Six of Cups, is right brain. Interesting. I mean, I'm not knocking any of the left brain people. We require both. I'm very much like artsy fartsy right brain. But I enjoy my time with left brain people because I recognize that I need that sort of logical, analytical to function balanced. Otherwise, I'll like perpetually be in this vibe, and that's not fun. But I've also seen where this left side struggle, where like left brain people struggle to access love and compassion and calm and, I don't know, understanding without this sort of like rigidity, or even just empathy in context of like, yo, this is my experience, you can't invalidate it because of, this study you read or whatever. because we also have to think about who's writing what, and everything is written by somebody with a motivation. I'm very much a pathos person for my rhetoric nerds. And logos in writing can be deceiving. Whereas pathos is just like tidal wave. Yeah, so there's bright sides in there, and there's follies with being more dominant, one more dominant than the other, and everything. That's true of gender too. There's confines and downsides to feeling like you're trapped in the structure of this is what a female should be and this is what a male should be, when in reality, like I always say, you require both. Femininity is the ability to create an idea. Masculinity is the ability to protect the integrity of that idea. And not even just literal protection, like fight somebody for it, just to maintain that integrity, and you need both for that to be able to blossom and to grow. And sometimes you got to flip the scripts on it. Like, men, get in touch with your fucking divine fam. My AFAB homies, get in touch with your mask in a healthy way. Because looking for your mask side through media is going to rock your world in toxic behaviors. And looking for femininity in the way that it's sold to us is never going to be as fulfilling as the ads make it seem to be, because femininity is a different kind of fulfillment, and I don't even mean pregnancy. It's the filling of the negative spaces, like this. It's the filling of those negative spaces. It's the spaces around things. And that's a lot. That's a lot. I'll let y'all digest that. Yeah, I don't know. And I am always down to talk about gender if anybody wants to hear more about my ramblings on that. But let's see what these runes got for us. Let's read the ones that are already out and see what that says. Top of this is Rune Lagoose, flowing water. Flowing water in this. Oh shit, yeah. The driving force. Ironic, because like the driving force we talked about too was that like singular fire, but like motivation, momentum, that came up a lot. That's what's flowing through us. We gotta let it flow through our hearts and stop damming it up with this separation of anxious breaths, or separation of thought, or separation of desire, because desire is the same thing that drives us to great successes, and can also be the thing that drives us to our absolute decline. That's the crazy thing. The crazy thing about Chiron, the crazy thing about Three of Swords, it's easy difficult. Creative and productive forces of nature, attributes of water, liquid, ebb and flow, tides of emotions, of careers, of relationships. The key to success lies in contact with your intuitive knowledge, in the mood for your inner rhythms. Holy fuck. As if I have not been saying that the entire time. Inner rhythm, jazz, like listening to your intuition, and like what makes you sing, what makes you bleed, like what makes you full of passion and new love and new joy. What is the waters of your life? Where do you find that flow? Where do you find that flow? It's in the middle of both. It's in the middle of all of this. It's in the midst of strife. It's making the best of it. Also, why meditation is so important, because it's easy to learn when shit wasn't going to fucking shit, but it is so much more necessary now that, I don't know, the world's exploding. I'm so subtle. Let's see. Conversely, is a warning against exaggeration from excessive striving. Advise against the attempt to overestimate your own focus or to work over the top for your own property. Just like I said with the way these fell out, like step by step, or like leaps of faith. Like right now isn't the time to stay still or to jump. You already know the path, like the steps you're supposed to take. You just need a steady pace, that ebb and flow, that flow period of like movement. It plays like a song in its own right. Right movement through the world, pulls on all the right strings of the world, like if they were on a finely tuned violin. I've had some interesting hallucinations meditating to solfeggio frequencies, and I think that you should try it. But I think that definitely gave me a different visual on the way the world moves, on the way blades of grass dance, on the way wood grain even flows much like the lake, or much like a body of water. I only say a lake because I know Lake Michigan. But yeah, all divinely connected, and like finely tuning your instrument, which is again where breathing and all that heart energy comes in, but also finding that green flow of joy in that 10 of cards that we keep showing, or that I keep showing. I like how I just switched these cards, my bad. So that's only that top rune. Let's see what the heck else is going on here, because this is already very loaded. Right foot. So we do wholeness, vitality, energy of the sun. Interesting. Left, right. The same is true for like eyes. In some like ancient indigenous philosophies, is I think it's your left eye is ruled by the moon, your right eye is ruled by the sun. Or it might be vice versa, but I also think that when one is true, the other has to be worked for it to be true. You know, like same thing with right brain, left brain. Like I am very right-brained. I do have to work on incorporating more left brain things into my life for balance, and vice versa. Wholeness, that which our body needs, fulfillment, vitality, like photosynthesis in the sun. Like maybe you've been in a dark space. I feel like it's the opposite. You've had the moon on you, or you're too caught, or you're so caught in the moon waves and the way that that's cutting through your air, cutting through your waters, cutting through your emotions. Feels like it's cutting through your heart. But the sun is rising, and it always does. You never have to look for it, and the sun is showing light on you, little plant, little seed, little seedling wanting to grow. Photosynthesis. We're all basically just fucking plants or fungi with like more complex emotions, I think. But yeah, like we need, plants respond to music, plants respond to, they can count, all that jazz. So soak up the sun and be good to your waters, and patient with yourself and the steps that you need to take. Not patient as if you're waiting for source or creator to intervene and do something for you, because it's not going to. It will literally watch you miss an opportunity or not walk through a door and will blow the wind to laugh at you because you missed an opportunity that they've presented over and over again. If that makes sense. It embodies the impulse for self-knowledge. Impulse, that's a funny word. I guess, in a way, all emotions can be impulses. But I think impulse suggests that it's not something that you contemplated. And I don't mean thought about with logical brain. I mean not something that registered intuitively. Because your logical brain can muddle you up, especially with, false information and yada, 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 with like everything around us. I know it's been in the planets too. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily make it accurate information. I feel like acting on that left brain is action, like reactionary, which is often not from a heart space. When you're angry and you lash out or what have you, that's I think more of what impulse speaks of for me. So be angry, but don't be reactionary. Be responsive, because that implies that you've really taken the situation, churned it out in your heart, and recognized that this is the next step to make, the way to move forward, not a crime of passion. Interesting. As a great power rune, shows that the life force can be available for you, and that there is a time to regenerate and recharge. Don't be too cocky. Yeah, and don't sit around and wait for spirit to make moves that they've been telling you to make. They can only say so much if you're not listening. I think that is where that impulse comes into. Like, are you listening for yourself, or are you all action and no listening? It's that disunite of mask and femme again. Let's see. What's this left foot, bro? Bertana. I don't know why I said it with a Spanish accent. Growth, rebirth. Rune of the life process, another cycle, which stands for fertility, which leads both symbolic and tangible growth. About the power to influence development and the nature in which it flows into your body. Its action is gentle and penetrating. Ooh. Scatter the resistance, then accomplish your work. Remember, your wishes must be clear and controlled. Conversely, events, or more likely character aspects, distract from growth of new life. Interesting. So, in a lot of like pagan ideology, your like left hand is closing, right hand is like activating, like counterclockwise, clockwise. So I feel like this could also be growth through the destruction of these kinds of cycles. Like can't go anywhere with two left feet. Two of these would not equal growth or rebirth. But because, and it sits pretty dang well in this. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. They sit very well together, almost like pieces of a puzzle. Unity in that footwork. Yeah, two left feet wouldn't get you nowhere. And left is also, again, that logical and that masculine, but it says that it's gentle and penetrating, which, if you've ever heard of pegging, that's exactly what that makes me think of. And it is very literally like a unity of masc and femme again, with gentility of heart and penetrating protrusion into the world. That's, a sort of funny play on masc and femme roles. So I think that's the way you're leading into these steps to get to this place. Interesting. Wow, these are so small. I'm like kicking my ass with information right now. All right, let's see what's going on here. Urus, upside down. And a ladder. Haglas is a ladder. It's like never inverted. Something of that nature. But we're going to look at bottom to top, because that's how we build, step by step. Mm-hmm. Oh, where is it? I found literally everyone but the first one, which is funny because I feel like that I often, and I've read this kind of in my star chart, but I often kind of have to take the long way around to get where I want to. And it's felt really silly. And it's been unnecessarily difficult. Life's been hard. But it's definitely worth it when that's the path that Spirit takes and you flow with it. And it's made me that much cooler. All right, righto. Communication, agreement, reconciliation, or a journey. Interesting. The beginning of the path, the first step. Are you leading with the left foot? And that's your right. Yeah. About the communication, the mood of something that has two sides, two elements, and a different kind of reunion. Literally what I've been saying this entire time. Here grows the intrinsic value, and at such a time we must remember that it is not envisaged that we rely totally on our own strength, but instead ask ourselves, what is the right action? What is the right action? And that almost, like, hearing that in a non-spiritual environment is like, what's your next move? Make it now. Like, can't snooze on this or whatever. But right action means that you have consulted with your intuition and unionized that left brain, right brain thinking to be able to pull your entire cellular structure together to make that step forward. There's a word that I've heard, and it's very popular, and the idea, the notion of being like water is very, not popular, but like oldest time kind of notion for like ancient, like Asian philosophies and what have you. But there's also a word for it in Selagi Cherokee. Duyukti is right action, like flowing with God, like flowing with water. There's no direct translation for it, but in the vast array of possibilities, it's the right step forward, the right tuning with the universe. Does that make sense? I don't know why I'm asking. It makes sense to me. That first step's a big one. I feel like that's the fear and the pressure too. It's like, is this logically, like, big risks, you know? Is this logically the right thing to do? And again, that, you know, logical belief of failure. But what is the passionate response to failure? Is like, it's not failure, it's an experience. Like, your heart's responding to an experience. But you can also program your, like, the synapse in your brain to think that, or to associate all of these experiences in one. So if you're, like, terrified of failure, your heart's going to be terrified of trying. Because that's what we've associated failure with in the past. Or, like, up until now. That's what the media wants us to associate failure with. Let's see. What is Urus? Upside down. Power, manhood, femaleness, wild bull. Oof. And so the funny thing is, wild bull and like the horned god, I am a devout believer that the god was, or like the devil and God were like queer as fuck characters. Like, Jesus was trans because he was born with no father to a female, so he only has female chromosomes. And the devil, I think, is a like lady, or like maybe like somewhere in between. Lucifer is often described as having a sensitive female face. The devil is also constantly referred to throughout religious texts as like a snake or as an owl. And then there's Lilith, and I do have a theory with all of what I've read that Lilith is the devil is Lucifer. Lilith is Lucifer is the devil, yeah. Which is completely like flips on the head what we've been told up to this point by the many edits of the Bible. And recognizing that we have the two in energetic capability inside of us is completely toppling on its head previous notions of what those things mean and what those roles mean in the world, as if we are not whole when in fact we were always. We are always. I very much believe that's also like Kundalini meditation. If you've never tried Kundalini meditation, I think it's clear as thought and has helped me to clear away the fog in what being queer means energetically. I'm a huge believer that gender is an energy, and you could be Arnold Schwarzenegger body and have the most effeminate energy, and you could be, you know, small as a mouse but tough as a box of nails, and that's, you know, that's that balance of that masc and femme, spectrum of non-binary, if you will, but not just in gender and experience in life. You know, the boxes that we often get put into that case us in. You know, men don't cry, women should have their toenails and their fingernails match color or whatever. None of those, like, nail polish isn't gendered, you know, silk isn't gendered. It's just supposed to make you feel some type of way, and everybody deserves to feel that way. You know, male clothes are designed for comfort and survivability. Like, women deserve deep pockets too. And just like men deserve to wear fishnets and lingerie, because everybody should feel sexy and tender and held and loved and strong and heard as well. So that is why that was upside down, because you have to take the top off of that box and experience the range of lights and emotions that are really paramount to a full human experience. And again, that depth of your heart. Yeah, waiting in the deep seas of your heart. And the most unexplored thing in the world is space and water. There's, creatures dwelling in there that we'll never see, and depths to it that we'll never be able to go. And our heart is very much like that. And we're staying at the surface too much. For sake of other people, maybe for sake of, fear of shame and guilt, or not enough, for sure. But yeah, fuck all that noise. Because it's just that noise when you can sing just fine on your own. Oh man, this is great, because this has been like, I don't know, all the important queer things in my life. Next step up is harvest, fertile phase, 1 year. A rune of good luck, good success, refers to any activity or effort you devote yourself to. Encouragement to remain in good spirits. Yeah, have confidence in all of this. Oh man. Refers to any activity. Encouragement to remain in good spirits. Be wary. Quick results cannot be achieved. Yeah, don't wait for that like divine intervention. Like God's just gonna be like, ta-da! Look what I did. No, God's like, look at what you did. You've done so much, and it could be so powerful if you just like trust me and walk these steps and build this ladder and climb this ladder, not jump off a fucking cliff and hope somebody's going to save you, because you have all of that in you. The period is always associated, therefore the keyword 1 year, which what quick results cannot be achieved. A period is always associated, therefore the keyword 1 year, which stands for the symbol for the full cycle of time before the harvest or exemption, liberation. Interesting. This, I think, says a lot about where you want it to grow. First step in good faith with your flow. Find your flow. Authenticity of what it is you represent or want to represent. The people that you want to speak for, or not speak for, but the message that you're being given, the message that you feel meant to speak, your authenticity. And this is wherever you want that to grow. A year from now, things are going to be very different. And that's terrifying and exciting. It's, the source of anxiety, but it's also such a source of great possibility. And that's kind of where we come back to the central fire of, desire isn't a bad thing. It's not a demon thing. It's not a devil thing. It's not an anti-God thing. It is just creative energy at its rawest potential. And because of that, has the power and capacity to build you up or break you down. It's the difference between jumping off a cliff or, walking your way to the line. That is, and so like, these are all very like thought these all flow in together. And this is, from what I know, it's sort of going to go on into infinity. Interesting how that clicks in there. So this ladder and this journey never ends. And that's life. That's a beautiful thing. Like, that's a great thing to hear. You know, life's not going to end. But because of that, I think we feel like, because I can't see the end route, or the end point, there's no point in starting. There's no point in moving. Like, that's anxiety. You know, the anticipation of where it's going to go doesn't get you anywhere. It just freaks you out and stresses you out. When I was a piercer, it was very much that, like, you know, how is it going to feel? All of these things. How big is it going to look? Like, not realizing that your logical brain is going to look at this and blow it out of proportion because it's not used to it. You know, our brain takes in so much information as is and cancels out a lot of things. But it was also just like, yo, calm down, breathe with me, and it won't feel at all like you anticipate it's going to. And 100% of the time, it was just like, that's not at all as bad as I thought it was going to be. Because I had to get people to slow down, to breathe, and to not be so looking off into the future. That's the problem this guy is having. So yeah, looking at shit a year from now at this point is like, holy fuck. What? You know, like, are we still going to be in lockdown? Is this still going to be da da da? You know, am I still going to have a job? Like, all of that is crazy, but we don't have answers for it. The only thing we can do is take these steps and trust in the God that we have invited into ourselves. Like, trust in that. Trust in your own divinity. Trust in your divine guidance. Yeah, it's gonna take you where you couldn't have previously imagined. Or you can't imagine maybe at this point, but that's because we're looking outside. And, you know, it's almost like looking at a blank page can be anxiety writing, but once you start drawing, a whole world comes together, and it's almost like, wow, I had no idea that was even in my head. But it falls into place almost like it's divinely guided. But it wasn't, you know, waiting for God or spirit to, you know, magically make this thing appear on canvas or on paper. It was taking that step to put your pen to paper and see where it goes. Yeah. Holy balls. That's really wonderful. Yeah. Oh, man. Cool. Well, those runes were a lot to kind of digest. Yeah. Rock out. Trust yourself. Pace yourself. Trust yourself. Tune into yourself. Because you are not half. The world just wants to make you feel like you're half of a whole. You are all of the whole. And it's like particle theory. Like, you are every molecule and experience. But you're only recognizing what it is you see now when you should be, when you could be, I don't want to say should, I shouldn't should, when you could be closing your eyes and going with what you feel, and in that, imagining all possibilities, you know, travel of the mind, travel of the inspiration, travel into deep into the sea at the back of your heart. Oh man, that comes up so much, and I'm so grateful for that sentiment every day in my life. Which is, I don't know, I don't want to say like only because of, but like looped, that aspect of my life looped very much into a song That is fantastic. So I guess I should like link that or something. So you can jam out with me and maybe give you some like tunes to really pull this message into a literal song for you. And I hope it makes you sing like it makes me sing. And feel. I have a lot of stories with that. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. I'm gonna sit with this myself and see what steps I need to take. Party on.